It's a sensitive, delicate deal, dragging brand new songs out of the sky. Trading ideas, accepting some, storing others in the maybe later bag, moving on and along with hardly a plan. During the Zepp years, I never imagined a full-scale album project without the other guys, and even less the idea of new writing partners. But then, since 1981, I've enjoyed many amazing, exciting musicians in the sharing, in the writing, in production and engineering. Men and women who encouraged and enlightened, introducing me to crazy curves I could never have imagined. For this podcast, I'm going to be picking out some songs from here and there along the way, mixing constant shifts in sound and intention from across this long old time. There's a story in all of them. I'm Robert Plant, and this is Digging Deep.
Hello and welcome to episode 4 of Digging Deep with Robert Plant. I am Matt Everett, and this is the podcast where Robert Plant takes a personal journey and looks back at his remarkable musical back catalogue, picking out one song to study each week, tracing the lines of inspiration and collaboration that resulted in some amazing music. This week we're going back to a song from Robert's first ever solo album, Pictures at 11 from 1982. And as well as looking at where the song came from, we also study this idea of what it's like stepping out on your own after years of being with one legendary group for so long. Hope you enjoy it.
Down, I'll be waiting for you, baby, when your time has come and your face no longer frowns. I got a taste of springtime on your lips. I saw the sunlight in your eyes.
This is a track called Like I've Never Been Gone. It was my first adventure as a solo artist since I was 17 years old, so I was just 33. And the whole of my previous 12 years had been sort of in the warmth and occasional tepid and very often freezing climate of Led Zeppelin. And so when we all lost John, there was only one thing to do, and that was to carry on, and to try and carry on and distance myself, if I could, from the wondrous shadow of the past. And so this is part of one of the tracks from my first solo album, Pictures at 11. And I recorded this at Rockfield Studios in Monmouth in Wales, and I went there because it was it still is a residential studio built in a farm down there, around a quadrangle of a farm. And the proprietors were suitably crazy to make it a great atmosphere. Kingsley and Charles Ward had been in rock and roll groups back in the late 50s and stuff like that, and they were also farmers, so they got this part of the farm, and somehow or another they managed to put some great equipment in there, and that's where Cream did Bohemian Rhapsody. That's where so many amazing. I went down there when the Damned were recording, and stunning stuff that Nick Lowe did down there with the Damned, and just loads and loads and loads of great. Dave Edmunds. I went to sign Dave Edmunds to convince him that his future would be better on Led Zeppelin's Swan Song label than with Rocket Records, because Elton was trying to sign him then. And he duly came with us and used to ring me at 4 every morning asking me, "Where is Peter Grant? I want to speak to somebody in management." I said, we've been friends ever since. Another great project that went somewhere west. So I knew the studio really well. I knew the people there. They were charming people, and the engineer was really great as well. Very, very good guy. So we set about making this record, and on the record, Robbie Blunt, Jez Woodruff, fantastic Paul Martinez on bass, and I needed a drummer that could kick ass. And because Phil Collins his solo career was just taking off, I think it was Face Value, we were put together by this guy called Phil Carson at Atlantic Records, who was the kind of senior vice president outside of America for Armit. And Phil said, I built more or less everything that I do so much on the influence of John Bonham, and I want to play on your record. And I said, well, you can't play on this track because Cozy Powell's playing on it. And Cozy we knew very well from those days around the Midlands. And Cozy was a good guy, precocious, confident, and like John, you could hear him yelling when he was playing in the sheer joy of actually pulling something off that probably shouldn't have been possible as far as a drum fill went. So Cozy played on this track and on a track called Slow Dancer, and then Phil played on the rest of the album, and then Phil played on the next album too. So this is great because it's a piece that's pretty dramatic, beautiful playing by everyone, and it, in a way, to me, it felt like, even though obviously we couldn't get John back and it wasn't a case of replacing him or finding another Bonham, it was basically just taking the idiom into somewhere pretty powerful, pretty beautiful playing, Robbie Blunt's playing, and the way that the thing cascades as a piece of music. It's great. I've actually heard other people playing it. It's very seldom I hear anybody playing my songs. I hear some people doing A Whole Lot of Love and stuff, but so it was quite interesting when I heard it, and I was thinking, now if I was singing that, I would do it like this, you know. And it's a song that I go to now and again and go, wow. So seldom do I dig deep, but when I do, I'm quite impressed at some of the stuff and the amount of joy and diligence when you get to the end of a mix if you play this track, it's like, wow, with the restrictions of trying to mix a track with so many things going on. In those days, you had to release, all the channels on the desk were all running live, so you had to constantly mute things or open them up, and if you got it wrong, you had to start all over again. And
it's a performance in itself.
Yeah. So those 4 a.m. dances around the console at Rockfield were splendid because we were all, leaning on the cauldron.
Across the sea, I see bluebirds on high, in the wildest places too. Above the ground, the wind is calling out to me. Oh, lead me back to you. I call the days of springtime on your lips. I can still see the sunlight in your eyes, in your eyes. It's been so long, it's been so long, so long since you've been gone. I look away.
It must have been nice as well thinking, this is a good record. I'm not going to stop.
No.
I have, it's the myth of you actually just stopping completely and becoming a teacher and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But to do a record and go, okay, this is, there's road ahead of me.
Yeah, well, the thing is, then and a little bit later on, I mean, on the next record with Phil Collins and Robbie Blank and those guys, we got this guy called Barry Morballo, who was a drummer who played with Tull a few times and done a lot, he's a very, very good drummer. But he'd started bringing in much more of a techno approach to stuff. Then I started hurrying swiftly up my own rectum because I could not get enough new technology. I just really went, wow, so you can do that. And if you do that with that machine, that happens to your voice. And you can do that over there. And I really did go off the track a little bit, you know.
You got to go down.
Yeah. Well, it works all over the place. Just that it wasn't appropriate that coming from Valhalla that I should be doing anything apart from being that same old guy for the rest of my life. Because, you know, everybody's got a back catalogue, and you do tend as artists to only deal in the very front end of it. But it is nice to look at these things and go, wow. I mean, if you play these pieces without any talk in between them, they're such a disjointed bunch of musical adventures. I've been in good company all the way through my time, and that is the greatest gift I could wish for. It's not always been a walk in the park, but the results have been something that I'm not hiding from.
There you go. That was episode 4 of Digging Deep with Robert Plant. Thank you for streaming and downloading and listening. If you liked the episode, then I can recommend hitting the subscribe button if you haven't done already. That way you won't miss our next episode. And of course, then you can go back and listen to previous shows in the Digging Deep series. We'll be back soon with another song from Robert's amazing back catalogue. Until then, I've been Matt Everett. Thanks for listening. This has been a Cup and Nuzzle production.